in various national and international journals of high repute. Considering his research experience, he is nominated as a member secretary of Institutional Ethics Committee of SIU since 2017. He has presented papers in international conferences at Dubai and London. He was invited speaker in international conference at London on the topic Challenges of Higher Education in India in October 2018. He was invited by Kent State University, USA, to evaluate the workshop on simulation-based nursing education in July 2019. He has also completed funded research project in 2019. I would now like to hand over the session to Sir.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Joyce, and for the elaborate introduction. But my major role in Symbiosis is Member Secretary of Ethics Committee, Biomedical and Health Research. So when we are reviewing the research proposals, so there are lot of inadequacy of the documents or inadequacy of the right proposal. So we have decided that we should conduct some deliberation related to the health. So today we will just see what are the statutory guidelines which are necessary for research. Now, Dr. Sita and Dr. Jasneet has elaborated regarding the data collection, what are the various methods of data collection, various methods of design. So when the proposal comes to the table for the ethical review, at that time, many times it happens that this methodology is not followed properly. In other words, if the methods is not followed properly, the scientific rigor of the proposal is become weak. So at that time, we require certain discipline or certain scientific view of that particular proposal. So research provides you an opportunity to do good not only to one, but for the millions. Because see, what is the health research? Health research is doing something good for the human beings. It involves a lot of procedure. Maybe researcher may be doing the observational study, as Dr. Jasneet explained you, observational studies, case control studies, randomized control studies, clinical trials, drug studies. So in all these components, the most important thing is because we are doing this research for the common people, for the community, for the society, and right kind of the research has to be there. So it has to be a scientific, because we are solving the problems of the people. And the researcher is very a responsible person while conducting the research. And we should see that we are not doing any harm to the people, because as the participant is important, in the same way, the community, society, university, our country, our state, that also very important. I can quote some of the example in between because some proposal comes to us and they're defaming the university or the defaming the country. So at that time, we are bound to reject such a proposals because it is harm to our uh, own self, our own university, our own country. That is also important with participants. So at SIU, at Symbiosis University, we are excellence in teaching, we are excellence in providing care with hospital and medical college in place. We should excel in research also. So when we are making the contribution, then we have to have certain discipline in ourselves. So what happens, why we are focusing more on the ethics? Because in the past, there are a lot of brutal experiments has conducted. So many times, so you must have heard or you must have listened that during the Second World War, the Nazi experiments, which are known to the world. So the slaves are used for the research and they used the slaves for the various experiment, and that is a brutal experiment. It's not a simple experiments. Some of the example, the prisoners are kept in a frozen state, and the researcher was watching at what temperature patient dies. Such a cruel experiment was conducted in the past. Even the Tuskegee syphilis study, it is well known to the world, very unethical experiment on African American without consent. And the big joke, there is Tuskegee study, free autopsy and free burial opportunity for the slaves. It was declared at that time. Means you will get the free burial process. So such thing has happened, and because of this, the many regulations and many guidelines has come up. So we have to have some set of rules, regulations, guideline to protect the rights, safety, and well-being of the participants and the stakeholders. And the first time after this Nazi experiment, 1946-47, first guideline comes that is called as a Nuremberg Code. That was the first document which was in 1946-47. And in that, the 10 principles of the ethics were included. Second document has come, that is a Declaration of Helsinki, after the World Medical Association has taken this on the meeting. And this has come in the 1964 and amended for the 7 times as per the situation. And the third document has come as a Belmont report. So after the Tuskegee studies. So these were the records which are there for the guidelines for the research. But before, see, even India also followed the same international standards. So, and ICMR has come up in 1980 first time with the ICMR guideline, 1980, then 1996, then the 2005, 2007, and 2017 was the recent guideline which is released by the ICMR. And there are a lot of updates in between comes to the ethics committee. So during the COVID also, there was some certain guideline has come up. See, what is the responsible health research? Before going to the ethics committee and the ICMR guideline, see, for the health professionals, good clinical practice is the first ethical principle that makes studies more scientific and ethical. So if you are following the good clinical practice, so standardize the treatment, then probably you solve a lot of problems. Where the accuracy and credibility to be maintained. Accuracy in the research is very important and credibility has to be there. And for that purpose, the researchers should have the integrity, responsibility, and accountability by the principal investigator or the researchers. And ultimately, the responsible publication. So this is also one of the responsibilities. So many people, they leave the research in between. So they collect the data and later on they lose their interest and there will not be a publication. Or the publisher asks many questions, there must be some violation of the rules and regulation. The publisher even reject the manuscript. So responsible publication is also one of the important thing as a researcher. So why it is important? Because it is a dissemination of the scientific knowledge. You are putting a scientific knowledge to the population. It is an open domain document when you publish your article. So you have to select the journal also of that stature, of that quality. So that has to be there. Now coming to the ICMR guideline. So it is a voluminous guideline. It is very exhaustive guideline which prepared in 2017 and which is openly available on the website. So along with that ICMR guideline, there is a guideline for the stem cell. There is a guideline for the surrogate motherhood. There is a special guideline for the children used in the as a research. So what we should follow? So we should follow, these are the 4 basic principles which is there in our ICMR guideline. So that is autonomy of the participants. There is an independence to the participants. They should have a right to select. They should be empowered. And their dignity, their well-being, their safety, their health, everything has to be protected. Justice to be given. Justice. There should not be any bias. There should not be any, what you can say, the bad treatment to the participants. They should be empowered to take the decision. Benefits has to be there. So we have to balance the risk and benefit ratio. What is the risk to the participant and what is going to benefit? For example, in the COVID time, there was the vaccine trials and all. So vaccine was developed during the COVID time. At that time, so if suppose the participant would not have come up for the testing, so the vaccine could not have come into the market. So because there might be some discomfort to the participants, but later it helped the millions of the people to protect from the disease. Then non-maleficence, that is the first, do no harm. So in any type of harm is we have to look after. Means the during the COVID time there was one proposal which was sponsored by some pharma industries. And at that time, the proposal came to our ethics committee. But they have never mentioned in anything, if suppose anything goes wrong to the participants, so who will take the responsibility? So how the compensation is made? And initially, in the first presentation, they told that we are not responsible for that if anything goes wrong. Then we rejected the proposal. Then after a few months, it is come up. And then they are ready to give them a treatment free of cost. Then the proposal was accepted. In such a things are happened, so we have to see the participant. As a researcher also, we have to see whether, if suppose if anything goes wrong, particularly in the clinical trial. So that has to be there. So the fundamental principle we have to see respect for the stakeholders, because there are a lot of stakeholders of the research, maybe the participant, maybe the sponsors, maybe the ethics committee, maybe the general public, the community, institute. So all are the stakeholders. So we have to respect their autonomy, dignity, rights, then the maximize benefits and minimize harms. When we have to balance between the harms and the benefit. So if it is the benefit is maximum, large, then we can go ahead. And it should be good for the society. And there should be justice, cater their needs, be fair in selection of the participants. That has to be there. Other principle which is mentioned in the ICMR guideline, first is the social relevance and essentiality. So these are the basic principle. If there is no essentiality, if there is no use of the research, don't do the research. The research should be societal benefit only. And so it should be the essential research. Then voluntariness in the informed consent, non-exploitation of the participants, privacy and confidentiality. So that is just now, just mentioned, if you are taking any interviews or the confidentiality, privacy has to be there. We cannot ask the question in the public for the research. Understand? So it should be respect to that participants. Then precautions and the risk minimization. If suppose if any interventional studies are there, we have to see that if participants are well protected, or if some minor discomfort is there, then how you are going to manage, we have to discuss beforehand, then only you have to start the data collection. Another most important principle is a professional competence. Unless you are qualified and experienced in that particular field, you can't do the research. For example, if any doctors are doing any research on the nutritional products, the doctors are the expert in the medicine, but not in the nutrition. So you are not well qualified to do any intervention of the nutrition and to find out the effect of that nutrition on certain diseases. So at that time, you can continue the research provided you are having some of the co-investigator of that qualification. So that has to be there. The stakeholder, I told you, the participant, investigator, funding agency, ICMR, DHR, HMSC. Whenever you are doing some international studies, international collaborative studies, you have to obtain the permission from Health Ministry Screening Committee, HMSC, which is under the ICMR. So if suppose the funding is there, if you are sharing the raw data to the foreign countries, so that committee has to come into the picture. So ICMR has given the regulatory framework. So in relation to the informed consent, oversight and ethical committee ensures research, integrity and compliance. So that all guideline is given in the ICMR. So the informed consent, see there are 2 to 3 documents to review in the ethics committee, which are one of the important is the informed consent, your proposal, your protocol, your data collection tool. So these are some of the document that is reviewed in the committee. So researchers' responsibility, so these are the basic researchers' responsibility. There should be integrity there. approach towards the research, their honesty, objectivity, carefulness, openness, respect for the intellectual property, whatever you are creating the intellectual property, that has to be registered. You may take the copyright, you may take the some patent registration, so that has to be there. Responsible mentoring, so whatever the senior researchers are there, so they have to just take care of the junior researcher. Social responsibility, non-discrimination of the participants, that all has to be maintained in the research. And so all these principles are put into practice through the formation of the Institutional Ethics Committee. So Institutional Ethics Committee, who monitors, who reviews the proposals and gives the approval, and unless the ethics committee approval is there, whenever there is a research involving the human participants, the ethics committee has to be there and approval of the ethics committee has to be there. So, and what ethics committee does, it oversights the medical research, maintain the ethical standard in the institute, risk benefit analysis, harm versus benefit, they look into it, and ongoing monitoring and research progress, particularly for the clinical trial. So there is a subcommittee which monitors the clinical trial, whether there is any harm to the participant or any alteration is required. So that always seen by the ethics committee. So it is a crucial for the research, including health research. Indian standards are also as per the international standards. So whatever the ICMR does, it is international standards. So role of ethics committee, protect the study participants, ensure that ethical conduct of the study, declaration of the conflict of interest. That is one of the most important thing. You have to declare the conflict of interest. For example, if anybody is conducting the study who is directly involved in that particular project, so we have to declare the conflict of interest. Understand? Even the sponsors, if the same pharmaceutical company, they are sponsoring the project and that particular researcher is working with that company, that is the conflict of interest. Means they can influence the result of the study. Even the studies are conducted between the teacher and the students. The teachers are directly influenced by the students are influenced by the teacher. So at that time, we have to declare the conflict of interest. We have to see that there should not be any conflict of interest during the data collection. And review of the protocol from the scientific, ethical, medical, and social aspect. It's not only ethical aspect. See, the scientific, why the scientific is important? Because if your methodology is not appropriate, your result will be hampered. So for that purpose, even though in the symbiosis, we are maintaining the two separate committees. One is a institutional research committee and institutional ethics committee. Institutional ethics committee looks after the scientific component of the proposal, and ethics committee sees the ethical component of the research proposal. Okay, many times the question comes, why the ethics committee should see into the scientific things? Because the unscientific research is by default unethical. If scientific rigor is not maintained in the proposal, that research is the unethical. Because there is no use of that such researches, because the result will not be appropriate. So that we have to just see that. And at the ethics committee, we are having the SOPs. So, and these are the components of the SOPs, everything is there. And this is a open domain document. It is available on the website. I will show you at the last where all these documents are lying. So website is, so all this constituents, the training, then selection of the consultants, categories of the protocol, everything is what is the waiver of the consent, site visit, dealing the grievances, that all is mentioned in the SOPs, and it has to be maintained in the SOP. It is a standard guideline which was prepared as per the ICMR guideline and CDSCO guideline. Understand, we have two separate SOPs, one SOP for the clinical trial, other SOP for the biomedical and health research. Okay, so it is mandatory requirement as per the NDCTR and ICMR. So new drug and clinical trial rules has come in 2019, which is now the rule. Earlier it was a guideline, but now it has become a rule. Rule means if you broke the rules, you are liable for the punishment. So for the clinical trial, bio availability studies, so we have to follow the rules. And in the ethics committee, if you see the composition of the ethics committee, all the experts are included, including medical, non-medical, scientific, non-scientific, legal, community representative, clinicians, and the lay person. So all these categories are included in this ethics committee, so that that proposal is looked in the 360 degrees. So any component should not be missed. Why? Even the lay person we have included. And unless the lay person is there in the committee, we are not conducting any meetings also. Because that is a mandatory, because that has to be seen by the lay person. How he will see, because he is a representative of the participants. Even the legal person, legal is also important, legal point of view, whether the appropriate compensation is mentioned in the consent form or not. So that legality also is seen. Medical person is there, clinician is there, non-medical person is there, scientific member, non-scientific member. So that also it is there in the ethics committee. So, and what are the elements of the proposal? How the proposal is written to the ethics committee? So these are all the points has to be there: introduction, background, purpose, procedure, risk, benefit, what new finding emerges, what are the outcome of this research. In the consent form also, what are the things has to be included, that has to be there. And the secretariat member or the member secretary shall screen the proposal for its completeness, and depending upon the risk involved, categorize them. So when the proposal comes in the certain format, it is first screened by the secretariat member, then it comes to the member secretary, and the member secretary then categorize the proposal. How it categorize? So it is category between the less than minimal risk, those who are having the very minimal risk, means less than minimal risk, like some retrospective studies, non-identified data, or the sample which are already collected, and it is left over the samples, anonymized data. There is no any identification of that particular educational evaluation. So that all comes less than minimal risk. So then the next category is a minimal risk. So those are having the very, very minor discomfort. Example include research involving routine questioning or history taking, observing, physical examination, chest X-ray. So these are falls under minimal risk. Then there is a minor increase over the minimal risk. So there might be some blood sample we are taking, some injections we are giving. So that converts, because some therapies are there. So that comes under the minimal or low risk. And the fourth category is a more than minimal risk. So probability of harm and discomfort is anticipated in research, where the invasive procedures are there. Some use of the drugs, use of the devices. So these comes under the more than minimal risk. So when when the less than minimal risk is there, first component we have seen, the less than minimal risk, we give the exemption from the review. So straightway the proposal comes, if it is in the less than minimal risk, even the researcher can give their comments also. So it falls under. So if you go to the ICMR guideline, page number 36 and table number 4.2, so it is given, and refer that particular document, and you can put your remark that as per the table number 4.2 of the ICMR guideline, my proposal falls under less than minimal risk. So we straightway give the approval to them. But approval is important. So many people are saying, if it is a less than minimal risk, why we should send to the ethics committee? But the certifying authority, whether it is a less than minimal risk, is a ethics committee. So researcher has to only send the proposal to the ethics committee. They see the proposal and they give the waiver. Means straightway the letter is given to them that the study is approved, they can go ahead. When expedited, so even the minimal risk also, we are just giving the, if suppose if we are using risk, hair, saliva, urine sample, etc. So that is expedited. Even for this purpose also, researcher don't have to come to the ethics committee for the presentation. They can send the proposal to us. If it is falls under the minimal risk, then it is circulated to all the members through the email. Okay, and they give their opinion that the expedited approval can be given. So then expedited approval is given. Only the third component, that is a full review, that more than minimal risk proposals are reviewed appropriately with the quorum of the committee. It is a full review committee, and research involving any interventional study using drug, device, invasive procedures, lumbar puncture, lung or liver biopsy, etc. So such proposals are to be reviewed in the full committee. So these are the categories of the review we are doing. Okay, so these are the levels of risk. I told you that exemptions given to the anonymous questionnaire, standardized educational test, minimal risk are given to the perception, cognition, motivation, identity, language, etc. And greater than minimal risk is the children. See, vulnerable population. Again, if in the proposals, if your participants are the vulnerable population, like children, women, pregnant women, postnatal women, prisoners, then the patient of any type of the diseases, psychological problem participants, so these all comes under vulnerable population. And if the vulnerable population is there, it is more than minimal risk. It has to be presented in the ethics committee. And the informed consent is one of the very important document that everything has to be there. And if suppose the participants is the local people, then we have to use the local language. We have to translate into the local language that whatever the design of the questionnaire and any interview technique. So that has to be there. And the process we are following, IEC date is fixed. See, as per the SOP, I will tell you, we have scheduled the ethics committee meetings once in a quarter. Means in a year, 4 meetings are conducted. It is given in the SOP. Even the ICMR also says the same thing. But at SIU, we conduct the meetings every month. every third or fourth week of the month is the ethics committee meeting, and whatever the proposals are, because we have a crowd of the proposals. So we have made 3 committees and 2 subcommittees, means 5 committees are working in the SIU. And the subcommittees are meant for all the student proposal, MSc student, master student proposal. So even the MBBS students are also conducting the research under STS project of the ICMR. And every month, almost 50 student proposals are cleared at the SIU. So that IEC date is fixed. Submission of the proposal, decide the review, which type of review is there. Then IEC meeting is conducted for the decision and documentation of the decision and communicating the decision. So that is the steps of the IEC review is done. And we give the categories of the approval. Categories, if suppose the proposal is up to the mark, all scientific and the ethical standard is maintained in the proposal, we give straightway the proposal is approved, category A. If the approved with the minor amendments, if some minor amendment has to be there, in suppose certain component in the consent form is missing, for example, the compensation is not mentioned, or the voluntary withdrawal is not mentioned, then we have to tell that your proposal is approved, but you have to follow following suggestions. So that is the minor amendments. And approved with the major amendments. So if there is some gross correction is required, so entire tool is not correct, or questionnaires are not asked properly, then again that ethics committee will tell you that you modify your proposal, modify your tool, modify your consent form, and again come to the ethics committee, but may not be asked to present again. It is circulated, and if suppose all suggestions are followed, then approval is given. And in certain cases, we give the rejection also, but reason should be specified. And even if it is rejected, the researcher has a full right to approach to the higher authority. So in case of any health research, the provost of the Faculty of Medical and Health Science, and ultimately the vice chancellor, you can claim that my proposal is rejected and I'm not happy with the decision. So you can go, then there is a separate committee, special committee will sit for that, and the proposal is again looked for. So till this moment, I think 900 plus approval we have given in the last 4 or 5 years. And in that 900, only one proposal was rejected because it was harm to the country. So again, they have removed the certain component which they are derogatory remarks related to the country. So they have removed that sentences and the references which they have quoted, and then it was again reviewed, and after the giving some corrections, we have approved that also. So this is what we have done at the ethics committee. And so few slides about the institutional research committee. Before it comes to the ethics committee, the proposal has to go through the IRC, because at SIU we have 2 committees, that is the institutional research committee. So that looks after the scientific component. So this committee's role is to see the scientific component of the research, and they suggest topic areas, approve the studies, field studies, projects, and they guide on the maybe the sample size or the tools or data collection or self-study report, whatever is applicable in that research. And the composition is also set for this committee, one director or deputy director as a chairperson, 1 to 2 professors, 2, 3 subject expert and assistant professors are included in this. And same documentation is the same. And this is the SOP, and the flow chart is maintained at the SIU. So first the research date, idea and subject discussed by the researcher with the fellow faculty member, then it goes to the project proposal, then it goes to the HOD of the HOD or the director, it goes to the again IRC. IRC gives the permission and IRC sends the proposal to the IEC. Then modification is made. So then the revision by the researcher. Again, it is sent to the IRC, approval by the IRC. Then it goes to the IEC and the final. And when the data is collected from Symbiosis itself, maybe the students, maybe the faculty members, maybe the patients from the hospital, or the any data which is there in the medical record room, so that we have to approach to the DARC, that is the Data Access Review Committee. So they give the permission if suppose the data is from the Symbiosis. So in conclusion, upholding the ethics in the medical research as a foundation, ensuring the responsible research, the principle like autonomy, justice, beneficence. So that has to be maintained at all the levels of the research process. ICMR guideline is a Bible for all the researchers to follow some principles. And future consideration, ongoing vigilance required now. So there are more proposals coming, that use of the AI, use of the genomic research, use of the stem cell research, multicentric research, that also has to be taken care, which is the little bit higher level of research. Thank you. All the best. Any questions, queries, or some addition? Hope you understood the entire process of IRC, IEC, how the proposal should be written, how the consent form is prepared.